Good morning, students. So, in previous lecture, we discussed about the introductory part of the chapter, the fundamental unit of life, or the cell structure and its function. We discussed about R.H. Whitaker's five kingdom system of classification, and after that, we discussed about bacterial cell. Then we discussed about plant cell, animal cell, and the difference between prokaryotes, eukaryotes, unicellular, multicellular, plant cell, and animal cell. So today in my lecture we will discuss about the discoveries related to the cells, some aspects related to the cell, different shapes, different sizes of the cells. That's what we're going to discuss today. So dear students, you just need to understand the topic and just then read from my notes. You have already done the written work of this chapter, so now this is the time when you should understand the chapter, so that when later on when I will provide you some assignment, you will be able to solve it. So first of all, you should know that who discovered the cell and how. So here in this picture, it is a Robert Hooke who discovered the living, not the living cell, but the dead cell in 1665 using the primitive microscope. He used this microscope. He studied the piece of wood to which he called cork. He used the cork, he studied the piece of wood, that is the cork, under his primitive microscope, and he found tiny compartments, honeycomb like structure, and he named these compartments as cella. Cella means tiny compartments, to which we later called cells. So that was the Robert Hooke who discovered the cell for the first time in 1665. But there was another scientist, that is Anton von Leeuwenhoek, who actually discovered the living cell. So he studied the pond water under his microscope, and then 1674 he was able to identify the living cell. So Anton von Leeuwenhoek was the first person who actually discovered the living cells, and Robert Hooke discovered the dead cells in 1665. Then 1831 Robert Brown discovered the nucleus. So you should know in 1665 Robert Hooke discovered the cell. He studied the piece of wood known as cork under his primitive microscope, and he found tiny compartments to which he named cells. Then in 1674 Anton von Leeuwenhoek discovered the living cell. Then in 1831 Robert Brown discovered the nucleus, and you know that nucleus is present in case of eukaryotes. Then Ruska and Knoll. So these were the two scientists, those who discovered the electron microscope in 1931, after which the more study of the cell was done, and then the cell biology was emerged, the more detail of the cell organelles was done during this period. So because you know that you can't study the cell organelles under the simple microscope which you use in the lab. It is only the electron microscope by which you can study about the details of the cell. You can study about each and every cell organelle. You can study in detail about the nucleus. So after 1931 it could possible about all these things. Then in 1839, that is before 1931, the cell theory was given by the two scientists known as the Schleiden and Schwann. So these were the two scientists, Schleiden and Schwann, those who proposed, those who formulated the cell theory in 1839. They gave some statements. There were two postulates, that is all living organisms are composed of cells and cell products of cells, and cell is the structural and functional unit of life. But later on in 1855, in 1839 cell theory was formulated, but later on in 1855 Rudolf Virchow further extended the cell theory, and he gave new statement, that is new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. The new cells are formed from pre-existing cells, and he used the term omnis cellula e cellula. Omnis cellula e cellula means the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. So he modified the cell theory in 1855. So this is the 3 marks question which you should know, that who gave the cell theory and when, who further extended the cell theory, and just write down the postulates of the cell theory. So this topic is important for you, so you should know about the discoveries related to the cell. Then another important aspect related to the cell is the cell shape and size. You should know that around the world there are different types of organisms. Even in the human body there are different types of cells having different shapes and sizes. If we look at around, you should know that mycoplasma or PPLO, which is a prokaryote, and its full form is pneumonia like organism. It is the smallest known organism. Its size is 0.1 to 0.5 μm in length. So again, one more question, expand the term PPLO, pneumonia like organism. This is the smallest known organism. Then largest isolated single cell is the egg of ostrich, whose size is 117 to 135 mm. So this is the largest isolated cell, and the smallest one is the pneumonia like organism, that is the PPLO. In human body the longest cell is the nerve cell, and in our body there is a one particular cell to which we call RBC. It is without nucleus, there is no nucleus in it, so we also call it as denucleated cell. Denucleated cell, so you should know about it. We also call it as denucleated cell, whose size is around 7.0 μm, and there is no nucleus. You should know that RBCs are meant for transporting the oxygen in our body. And you know that on the basis of nucleus there are two types of organism, that is prokaryote and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes having no well-defined nucleus, eukaryotes which have well-defined nucleus. And here the largest cell ostrich egg, and the smallest known cell, that is the mycoplasma, which you can see only under the electron microscope. So we have already discussed about the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, unicellular, multicellular organism, plant cell and animal cell. So now if we look at the components of a particular eukaryotic cell, uh, I'm not talking about animal cell or plant cell, I'm including the components of both the cells. So in a particular eukaryotic cell there may be a cell wall, which is the part of the plant cell absent in animals, then cell membrane or plasma membrane present in all the living organisms, then nucleus, cytoplasm, then cell organelles which are absent in prokaryotes and present in eukaryotes, so which include ER, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, vacuoles, mitochondria, plastids, ribosomes. So these are the important cell organelles which you should know. Then you should know some functions of these cell organelles. If we say that cell is the structural and functional unit of life, why we call it as? You should know that cell is the basic unit of life. All the living organisms are made up of cells, so cell is the structural unit of life. A single cell can perform all the basic functions which are performed by the whole body, like one cell can perform nutrition, respiration, excretion. So we can consider cell as a functional unit of life also, and this is only possible due to its subcomponents to which we call cell organelles, which play different roles. For example, nucleus is known as the control unit of the cell. Whole metabolism of the cell, whole functioning of the cell is under the control of the nucleus. Then ER, which provides strength inside the cell, it provides support and helps in transportation of substances. Golgi apparatus, again this is the traffic police or postman of the cell, which helps in transportation of various substances. Lysosome, known as the suicidal bag or sweeper of the cell, or cleaner of the cell, which helps to remove the dead organelles, dead cells from the body, and even it kills the bacteria which enter into the cell. So these are the suicidal bags, because they just go inside the cell which is infected with the pathogen, where it will burst. It contains very powerful enzymes. I will discuss later on that what are enzymes. Those enzymes or chemicals kill the pathogen and even just kill the whole cell, just to prevent the healthy neighboring cell. So we call them as suicidal bags. Then there are vacuoles, which is larger in size in case of plants and smaller in size in case of animals. These are the storage sacs which store food. Then mitochondria, it is known as the powerhouse of the cell. It creates energy for the cell for the metabolism. Then chloroplast, kitchen of plant cell, it helps in formation of food with the help of the process of photosynthesis in plant. It is absent in animals. Then ribosomes, these are the protein factories, ये प्रोटीन बनाती हैं, so you should know. Okay, or or that's what you should know about the basic idea of the cell. So अब हम in the next lecture we will discuss about all these components one by one. Like in my next lecture we will discuss about the difference between cell wall and a cell membrane. So one by one we will keep on discussing the topic, and we will keep on covering the whole chapter. So please complete your work. I've already given you two chapters. One is the cell structure and its function, and the second one, conservation of plants and animals. Please complete your written work. I will keep on sending you videos, and please keep on watching so that you will be able to understand about the topic also, so that later on we can start with the assignment work. And in next week most probably you will get the assignments related to the this chapter, that is cell structure and its function. So that's it. That's for today. Thank you so much, and please watch this video. Bye. Have a good day.